Good evening. Let's begin by claiming our space, cleansing it, dedicating it to our endeavors of the evening. Okay. Air and fire, or hot air, as some people might refer to it. Okay. Now turn to the west. Hail to the spirits that ride the west wind. You who carry learning and help us with vision. Come, join with us. We'll be exploring new elements tonight. Come. And I turn to the north. Hail to the spirits that ride the north wind. You who live in the time of darkness and night. Come out of the dark and bring your dreams and give us the courage to face what is before us. Come. And I turn to the east. Hail to the spirits that ride the east wind, you who come at the dawning of the day, as the opening eye of the morning sun shines its light and reveals to us what has been hidden in the dark. Come and show to us the revelations of the evening. Come. And I turn to the south. Hail to the spirits that ride the south wind, you who are strong at midday and the warm summer, you who bring us the music and the words to tell our stories and to celebrate our achievements. Come, join with us now and help us find the song that is ours. And here in the center, to the spirits of this place, we thank you for your hospitality, for being here and being the support and the embrace in which we live. We are here, you are here. It is good. Father Sky, Mother Earth, ancestors, nature spirits, people of the Fae, all of us warmed by the great spirit fire. May you find this sweet. Hooray, hooray, hooray. We are here, in this place now. Clay and water from the earth, sun and wind from the heavens, a divine home for soul, abiding at the center of our being, in the center of the worlds, on the threshold to the horizonless other world. We are here, in this place now. We are here, and it is good. Okay. My voice is a little rough tonight. I'm not trying to be sexy. It's just the way it is. Okay. Well, we've been through the first two of the elements, or the elemental principles, and we'll be doing the other two tonight. But before we jump into that, I'd like to note there's a certain mysticism we can see in Tom's writing in there. It isn't just sort of that of a technician saying that, well, do this and this and this and this. You can see I don't know what I'd call kind of a formative, larger element behind what he's doing. He says there, I think it's on page 71, we are encompassed by the four elements, and we are composed of the four elements. For the Creator decided that we should be made of the same stuff as the rest of creation. So clearly, we're not something separate, from the rest of creation. We're not the pinnacle, or the epitome of creation. I mean, you can tell by who we select as leaders. So, or even to entertain us, there. And so, this, when I talk later on about how we might apply this in some ways, this might also relate this thing about us being of the same elements as creation. When aspects of the world around us are out of balance, it can have an effect on us, even if we're not directly participating in it. We're not separate and isolated as much as we would like to think we are. And probably the more we think we are, the more susceptible we are to the subtle influences of the rest of creation, or the rest of the emotional waves that travel around the world. So, we can say more about that later. So I'd like to turn to air. Air is good. And in terms of correspondences, air corresponds to dawn, to the east, to spring. It's the time when light crosses the boundary that separates night and day. And also when the daylight overtakes the darkness at the equinox. So it's a threshold, as it were. And in the body, air brings vitality with each breath. In fact, in some languages, the words for breath and spirit are very similar, if not the same. And so this, how like air is the spirit. Comes and goes, it's invisible, but it can have a very visible effect. As we see blowing stuff around on the deck today. You can't see the air, but you know it's there. So our our first journey is to that spirit of the air, and to sort of give you a prequel, the we'll in this journey we'll let our bodies dissolve into the air, and we become vapor, so that our spirit body can travel with the wind, and starting perhaps as a gentle breeze, but then who knows how powerful that wind might become, perhaps even a storm, until you're blown to the spirit of air, who may want you to know something, and that would be the time to ask, what does the spirit of air want you to know of its mystery and power? And then you return, where you began, and let your spirit helpers collect and restore your body's density. It'll still be here. Don't worry. I guarantee. Actually, that reminds me. There's a Rilke poem. I live my life in growing orbits, moving out over the things of the world. Perhaps I shall never achieve the last, but that shall be my attempt. I am circling around God, around the ancient tower, and I still do not know if I'm a falcon or a storm or a great song. The storm was the connection there. It was roughly related to what we're doing, okay? But in a way, we're all circling around something, and maybe we'll get a clue to that. Now, I'm assuming it's helpful when we do these journeys that where I sort of say, okay, like do this and let's try for this and this and this, all these steps, I assume it's helpful if I give prompts. I mean, okay. I know it is for me, because I get started in there and it's like, what am I doing? And how did I get here? And, I usually find my way back, but I don't know if I'm on task. So, okay, so all right. What I'll do is like I'll as I've done before, give prompts for pieces of it, and then when we get to the spirit of air, turn you loose with it, and then call you back. To come back for your helpers then to tend to you. And then the sort of the usual drum callback to return fully here. Okay? So the big question is, what does the spirit of air want you to know of its mystery and power? Maybe adding in your life, or just in general. Or both. So. Begin where you are right now and here. Call to your helpers, those spirits that look after you, that care for you. and start from where you are here. Take a moment and let them prepare you as we prepare to travel with the wind. And when you and they are ready, let your body dissolve as you become a vapor, a spirit that can travel with the wind. Let the wind carry you. You could travel anywhere. Through the branches of a tree, over a great mountain, a vast ocean. As the wind, you can go anywhere. You could become a storm. Let the wind now carry you to the very spirit of air. The spirit of air, however it might appear. And when you do find its presence, you might ask, what do you want me to know of your mystery and your power? of a clay body to return to. You cannot stay as air. Say thanks to the spirit of air. And return. Like the wind. And let your spirit helpers recollect you and restore your body density. The air remains in your breath. The spirit of air never leaves you. Every breath, a reminder of its presence. So what was it like? Travel as wind, to meet with the spirit of air.
I'll jump in. I thought it was just pleasant. I mean, it was it just was really nice. This is something I think I'm gonna do just for the fun of it. It's very comfortable. I can't imagine trying to travel as Earth.
Yeah.
So this one probably works better.
Thanks, Kurt. Yeah. Yeah, you know, some of us live in our heads a lot, and I think that would be easy. Like, I'm speaking for myself, I guess here. That, and I'll say more about some other correspondences with these elements too later. Anybody else?
It was so free, free feeling.
Free?
Um, and I kind of wondered what it would be like, not only to come back to the body, but the body's going somewhere else. So I almost imagine being in up in your upper room, around the in your living room, uh, sitting by your fireplace, coming back then, you know, and there it was such a freedom of travel
Hmm.
and a joy, enjoyment.
Yeah. And you can see why the shamanic journey is so often described as soul flight.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as I mean, I don't know. They may take it literally, but it works as equally as well as a metaphor. Okay, Daniel, were you about to say something?
I was just going to say that I thought it was very refreshing and relaxing, and but I don't know that I ever went to find or found the spirit of air. I was just preoccupied with kind of being blown around.
Well, there's its mystery and power right there. Thanks. Yeah. Okay. Well, um, so what's left? Um, Gosh, we're going along pretty quickly. Do people want a break before we journey again? No, nobody. Okay. Um, well, so this brings us to the element of fire. Now, fire, I think, is curious. If we if we if we think, I think I mentioned this in one of the essays about if we think of them as, or maybe I was going to, a concrete, as like air, earth, earth, water, and fire concretely. How is fire an element? You know, but if we think of it as a principle, it's like anything that has heat. Of course, it has some relative fire in it, and going on all the way down to, what do they call it, absolute zero, which is pretty cold. I mean, not I so I hear, and the fire has other associations. Again, when we talk about the correspondences more after the journey, I'll say more about that. In the Celtic world, they didn't. As far as we know, I mean, as far as we know, they're they weren't so systematic. Now, I've often referred to the story about, prosperity in the East, music in the South, and all that. But that was one story. What else was so frequent was references to earth, sea, and sky. That seemed to be their world. And there was an oath that some would swear that, if I break my word or whatever, if I violate my promise, it was something like, may the sky fall on me, the sea drown me, and the earth swallow me up. So it was like calling on these elements to punish me if I violate what I say I'm going to do. But there was this constant reference to earth, sea, and sky, which made the idea of a trinity very compatible. And I think I don't think I made this up. I think I've seen reference to the idea that so often in at least some of the Irish writings, when they refer to the Trinity, they're not talking about the Catholic Trinity, of the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. They're talking about earth, sea, and sky. And so there's this sort of overlap of two different cultural concepts, confabulation of the two that made it easy to look like you're being one way, but you're really referring to something else. So anyway, my point is that fire's not in there. It's not in the earth, sea, and sky, and yet fire was such a part of healing for them. One of their healing things was to go lie on a warm rock that had been warmed by the sun. And they did have, well, they didn't call it, they weren't really sweat lodges as such, but they were, say, hot houses, saunas of sorts. And I think there was some healing process that used the heat of something like that. And the Scythians are especially known for this. They'd have the little beehive kind of structure made of stone. It wasn't constructed like the natives here used to do. This was a stone structure, and the fire was built inside to heat up the stones there. And then the ashes would be pulled out and the person would go inside and absorb the heat from the stones. And then they might go out, jump in the water, and then be warmed by rubbing. And I don't know where I saw that. It's somewhere in the literature. But again, my point is fire was used as a healing element. There. Well, okay, in some of in the natural seasonal correspondences, fire corresponds, of course, to noontime when the sun is at the peak of the day, as well as the summer. It seems kind of obvious with that. Around especially that heat of the summer, and to the direction of the south, because the sun. If you watch the path of the sun, the way it travels, it comes up in the east. It never really goes overhead unless you're living at the equator. The sun comes up and it's always traveling toward the south in the morning. And then gradually comes back, and so it has this tilted orbit that becomes lower and farther away in the winter. So we there's this instinctive knowledge that there's the heat down there in the south, because that's where the sun's going in the winter. Okay, well, and in the body. In the body, we not only have the fires of digestion that breaks down the elements into something, nutrition that we can use. And it's one of the ideas of our human evolution. And the growth of the brain is postulated, maybe, that it's because of the use of fire to cook food. So we could increase our nutritional intake a lot faster if we could cook that food ahead of time. And so it was all, like, in a sense, pre-digested, partly. Certainly tastes better, I think, for a lot of things. So we have the fires of digestion, as I said, but then also there's heat in every cell. And the body has to maintain a certain really narrow temperature, or it doesn't do well. And so there's this significance of heat. The fire in the body, the fire in the cells. So after all that, the important thing here is going to be your journey. And this journey will have 3 parts. And again, I'll prompt you through here, through the stages. The first, you're going to meet with your bond. You're going to meet with your spirit helpers and go into a bonfire in the spirit world, of course, and in the center of which is the spirit of fire. So the spirit of fire is at the center of that bonfire. You go in there, the drumming will be slow there. And there's where you ask the fire, or the spirit of the fire. Maybe it'll just be the fire itself. What can it tell you about its mystery and power? In the second part, that's the first part. Now, in the second part, the drumming will speed up, and I'd like you, if you would, stand up, physically stand up, and dance the fire. Okay, so you're in a sense, you've merged with that bonfire, and you move with the fire. Okay. All right. And then the third part is, of course, fires will gradually die down, as the fuel is spent, and become embers. So the drumming will slow and get quieter. I'm hoping I can work this out until you can either sit down or lie down, as you wish, really just to absorb the warmth of the embers. And again, I'll talk you through these stages, and we'll take our time. And there in the embers, your spirit helpers come to you and take care of you, and then prepare you for the return. Okay. So you'll begin as fire. You'll be the intermediary part of dancing with the fire, and then the stage of the quieting and the embers. Okay. Any questions about what I'm asking you to do? Yeah. So, as they say, dance like no one is watching. You're the fire. Let the fire move you. And you can turn your cameras off, of course, and actually nobody can see you. Except maybe you're helping spirits in the spirit of the fire. and then you'll see, as you'll hear, the drumming will change. But again, I'll prompt you with each of these steps. Okay? Here we go. Call your helpers to you. Let them prepare for you. Prepare you for the fire. Nearby somewhere, there is a fire, a bonfire, a beautiful large fire. This may be the largest fire you have seen. You and your helpers can dance around the fire. It has its own music, its own rhythm, its own song. It invites you in. Continuing, perhaps to twirl, to dance, you enter the boundary, and it is light to you. Circling inward toward the center. And in the center is the heart of the fire. And there you ask what you might know of its mystery and its power for you. What is the mystery of fire for you? What is the power of fire for you? suggest you stand. And let that spirit of fire pervade your own spirit inside. Let the fire move you. dies down. And you can sit or lie down within the embers. And you absorb the warmth of the embers. The power of the fire is absorbed into you. It doesn't disappear, this fire. It becomes you. The embers embrace you. Your helpers come to you there. They take care of you. With the warmth of that love that comes through the fire. So what was it like to become fire? My heart is beating like crazy. And I was only thinking about dancing. Anybody?
As I recall, the last time we did this, I complained about getting too hot, and this time I didn't. So, I got warm, but I didn't get too hot. So that was good.
So I was feeling fire is just coming up through a lot of my energy body, and it's kind of interesting because it hit certain points where there was some blockage, and it just feels a little
Hmm.
kind of explosion, like a steam explosion. Um, no pain or anything, and it's very nice. And I was trying to follow the energy, and fire, it's some kind of interesting how the fire just died down. It just slowed down, and it became sort of cold fire, so I could take a look at it. It
Ah,
wasn't moving all the time, and then it came back up again. It was kind of curious.
interesting. Yeah, it had its own has its own agenda.
It was trying to show me something. I don't
Uh-huh.
know if I got it or not, but
Thanks, Kurt. Anybody? Sandy, you're unmuted, so you're unmuted, so you're okay.
Yeah, I found dancing the fire to be very surprisingly calming and grounding,
Hmm.
to kind of feel in the center of it. I pictured the fire at a place I've been, which isn't right here.
Hmm.
Um, it was heavy in the lower half of my body and very slow, circly feeling, and I felt like a flame, but it wasn't a wild thing. It was very interesting.
Hmm.
Not what I thought would be.
All right, thanks. Yeah, there's a something I've noticed when you hear firefighters talk. They talk about the behavior of the fire. They talk about it like it's a conscious being.
Mhm.
I don't know if that's just their way or there's something else behind it. But why not? I mean, they know it better than most of us. Anybody else?
I would just like to add that I had a very nice, very pleasant journey, and I kind of thought it was over. And then the part about the embers and having my helpers help me back into reality with the embers, it dawned on me that I'm a freeze baby. I'm cold all the time, especially in the winter. I was talking about that before we came on. But it dawned on me that even in normal life here and now, that I can visualize my helpers and myself sitting around the coals and warming up. I mean, why not?
Hmm.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks. You think about because I'm big for lighting fires, bonfires, and you think about the wood. That's the fuel. It's like the fire is in there, waiting to be set free. That's the way I think about it. It's there. It just needs to be liberated, as it were, and then it flares nicely Sometimes it just burns quietly, if you've been through the Wheel of the Year, each fire has its own little personality, and so then it flares, and then it goes down to the embers, and that's part of the life of that fire. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, that's
For
anybody.
me, for me, the air was so free and expansive, where the fire toward the end just brought me down to the earth.
Hmm.
And I too got warm, but like any time around a fire, I just want to go to sleep and got really rested. Where the air, I felt like I needed to go higher and wider. But the fire kind of brought me down to, okay, it's nighttime, let's go to bed.
Well, thanks, Kathy. That was a good segue. That's why I did fire last.
Oh, good.
I mean, did the air first tonight? Because that's air. I didn't want. Some people get so spacey doing journeys, and there can be this hangover. But a fire just seemed like a perfect way to have the expansion and then experience that contraction back into density, as it were, but changed. This transformative aspect of fire. Anything else about fire?
Also,
Yeah.
since the last 5 years since surgery, I haven't I can't be around fire a lot um, because of the smoke getting in my lungs, and I don't enjoy it. I found myself really enjoying my artificial fireplace, but for me today, it was a new experience of enjoying fire
Mm.
that I haven't had since before surgery.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of challenges me now to while I'm sitting here by my own fire, my quote, artificial fireplace, to enjoy it more
Mm.
because there's that feeling of, like you said, being released, something being released with it. So thank you.
There's the we often hear of if in Christianity at the crucifixion. Now I don't know if this is biblical or if this is another folk tale about this a sign or something that's put up that's INRI, Jesus Christ, King of the Jews, meaning. But there's an esoteric meaning to that, and it's all nature is renewed by fire. And so it's this thing, and of course that's in the spring. It's the Easter. There is the first Sunday after the first full moon after the spring equinox. So it's a spring ritual, and it's this whole idea that nature is renewed by fire. It's a revitalization, as it were, and transformation. So anyway, that's just a little not altogether relevant sideline, but it is about that renewal there. Okay, well, I did have some more notes of things. So so what? So we've done this thing with 4 elements. It's like, so what? Well, I mentioned, I think, in one of the essays, that this rendition of these elemental principles offers us a portable medicine wheel, or spirit wheel, as it were, with us in the center. And kind of regardless of our surroundings. And here's the disadvantage that I complained about all the time, but now I'm saying it's an advantage. Because we can put that around us, the energy of it around us, and we can be in the center of this portable wheel, and with elements in their directions, and that we can then draw from them the strength that we need, whatever it may be. And looking at astrological charts that I do all the time with the elements, and the computer that I have will spit out a kind of a relative reading of how strong is each of the elements: fire, earth, air, and water. And we can pull that. I think we can pull that into us, with the energy of it. So that's one thing, and another is, you may remember the directional drumming that we've done a number of times, where I just drum and then we stand and face each of the directions and feel what the difference is, because they don't feel all the same, and it's a fascinating thing. But if we have established in our mind what element is in what direction, we can use that as information. What is it about water that's disturbing me, or overwhelming me, or lacking? Or what is it about earth there as we turn to the directions? And so we can use that to see if some element is weak or out of balance. I mentioned correspondences to seasons. I don't know if I mentioned it so much to the first two, earth and water. Earth be the north, of course, when it's cold. I think I made reference maybe to Tom's writing about that. But we often hear these correspondences. I alluded to this earlier, like the air is related to the intellect, and to relationship, because it's through the intellect that we recognize relationship. I mean, there's space. Air means space, that we're aware of, and since we're aware of space, we're aware of the other, and so there's relationship. And some of us spend too much time there, in air. Earth, of course, is the body. The bones, muscles, the tissues, the skin, the organs. And it's that solid and stable, the part, in one sense, it's the part that grounds us, that is our ground. I've mentioned this before. O'Donoghue referred to it as our clay home, our earth, and our earth body. And you'll hear water being referred to as the emotional, related to the emotional body and to the emotions. But in astrology, to sensitivity, to impressionability, receptivity, and connection, a real felt connection. I'm going to say more about emotions in a minute. And then, of course, fire. Again, fire is different, but fire is like this animation, animating vitality in us, as well as ambition. The fire in the belly, people will talk about. But then we also have the fire that we find in the cauldrons of soul, the fire in the cauldron of warming, the fire in the cauldron of vocation here in the heart, and then the fire in the head, inspiration and that. Now, there's a Sufi idea that divides the emotions between water and fire. And the emotions that are heavy and pulled down are represented by water, because water always flows down. The emotions that are uplifting, maybe empowering in some way, but are uplifting, are represented by fire. So I just thought that's an interesting distinction between the two. Again, these are just metaphors, so we don't want to take them too literally, but they still have sort of an intuitive validity there. I've mentioned astrology. I should also mention, this is tangential now. I'll come back to the topic at hand, maybe. Pluto today left Capricorn finally, and is now permanently in Aquarius for the next 20 years. So that represents the tearing down of old structures, and we can sort of see that happening. And then like a reprocessing, but secrets will be revealed and all of that stuff. So it's going to be chaos before the storm, or chaos before the storm. That doesn't make any sense. I think there'll be chaos before things restructure themselves there. So I think it's important for us to hold to our spiritual center and to remember who we are. Remember who our soul wants us to be when it incarnated into this world, and not get distracted by those people or forces that want to manipulate us into something else. So hold to our center and call in our ancestors. I know people have been highly distressed, a lot of people, for the last 2 weeks, and including myself. And so it's holding on to that center of the core values so that we don't get turned into that to which we object. And to, again, call on our ancestors that have been through stuff like this worse, so they can support us, regardless of which side of the political aisle anybody might be. There's going to be stress happening. Well, there is. Okay. Any thoughts or questions about any of this thing with the elements? You should now, if you're so inclined, be able to fill this in, all the blanks, with, you see, those empty blanks are really for your personal part. As I mentioned in today's email, we could have just listed out this, and I may, if I get a chance, I may put together some more of these correspondences, kind of lay them out in a little table, have this picture in my head. But that would be easy to do, just to sort of say, okay, here's what people believed, and here's what it is. But that has very little meaning. What's really of significance is that we live in this world, and our relationship isn't really with the words on a page. Our relationship is with these directions and these elements and the life around us and the life that's coming through us, which is the same life. That's where the meaning has its meaning, there. So that's the importance of. So I really encourage you to fill in the blank. This is the fill in the blank test, but you're the final grade on it. So don't worry about that. Okay, so any thoughts or rebuttals or other ideas? You can see we didn't talk when we're talking about these directions. So we didn't do much with the center. That's more in the Irish. But just remember, you are in this wheel. You are there. You are the center of this. So I keep asking you if there's any questions or whatever, and then I go on talking. So I'll give you a chance. Okay, well, I do have. I mentioned that quote by Tom that sort of shows a sort of mystical bent of what he said. But also, in addition to that, there's a Chinese. They call it the Western inscription, and I've tried to find out why it's called that. And I think it was just on a Western wall, is where it was. Somebody wrote it, but it's attributed to Zhang Zai. Okay, I checked with Anne. How do I say this? In the 11th century, the 11th century, he was a Confucian writer, and it goes like this. Heaven is my father, and earth is my mother, and even such a small being as I finds an intimate place in their midst. Therefore, that which fills the universe I regard as my body, and that which directs the universe I consider as my nature. All people are my brothers and sisters, and all things are my companions. I'll say it again. Heaven is my father, and earth is my mother, and even such a small being as I finds an intimate place in their midst. Therefore, that which fills the universe I regard as my body, and that which directs the universe I consider as my nature. All people are my brothers and sisters, and all things are my companions. I just think that's a beautiful rendition of so much of what I've tried to say, but nicely put. Yeah, succinctly put. So this aspect, this mysticism aspect, has been around a long time, and probably way before this guy, and back to the Taoists, I'm sure. So this session sort of wraps up the elements, this thing of the elements, and we'll be moving on to some other things, some other kinds of journeys. And I have a couple announcements here. This first semester of this year series ends with a January 7th session, and the second semester begins on January 21st. about the time the sun moves into Aquarius. So be sure. I don't have my notes finished here. Be sure to let us know if you're going to continue to the second semester. And maybe what I'll do, I'll send out the original notice again, and it'll have the second semester topics on that. Maybe you've had enough, or maybe you want more of what's going to be in there. So I'll send that out too. And we have some time before you really have to decide. By the end of the year, I guess. And remember that we have in December we have one session, and that's December 3rd, and then the winter solstice observation on December 17th. So that's about this series, and then if you're continuing with the Wheel of the Year, if you're doing that, I know a bunch of you have already let us know, signed up for that, or signed out. And that's when you sign up for the Wheel of the Year, it's not like a commitment to attend. Nobody's going to come around and sort of like Anne takes attendance anyway, but I mean nobody's going to follow up and call your parents. So it's not a commitment to attend. It's just to stay notified of the events as they happen. And of course, you can always come in later. Yeah, whatever works for you, in your world, so that you can exercise your sovereignty and stay in the center of your own wheel of your life. Any thoughts or questions or comments or anything? A song to sing? Somebody want to entertain us? All right. Well, let me close the formal part of this, and then I'll just hang around a bit. Okay. To the spirits of the West. Thank you for what we've learned this evening, and for the vision of what our life can be with each elemental presence in our world. We thank you for being here, but the time of parting has come. Go if you must, or stay if that be your will. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And to the spirits that have come to us from the north, we thank you for being here, and perhaps in the night you might return and give us dreams. And thank you for the courage of our adventures. But the time of parting has come. Go if you must, or stay if that be your will. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And to the spirits that have come to us from the east, thank you for opening the eye, for revealing these experiences, and for the mystery and the power of the elements. But the time of parting has come. Go if you must, or stay if that be your will. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. To the spirits of the South, thank you for being here and giving us the words to tell our stories. The time of parting has come. Go if you must. Stay if that be your will. Thank you. Thank you. And to the spirits of this place, you who have held us in your embrace, who have been present to us and allowed our presence, we thank you for this time. But this time has come to an end. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It is done.